You're listening to Releasing Trauma, a survivor's podcast. And now here's your host, Tracy Osborne. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Today, we are talking about kind of a lot of things, but the biggest thing I think overall is, for one, the mental health system in America is a joke. It's a nightmare. And number two, for those of us who are caregivers of trauma survivors, that can be traumatizing in itself. And my guest today, Amy Berry, is the wife of a veteran. And so she, has had to deal with his trauma and his PTSD and, helping him to navigate and get through it. So, Amy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, number one, thank you to your husband for his service. Absolutely. Yeah, this is, kind of something I've never had to deal with. So, but I've heard the stories about, war vets, especially, and the trauma, the PTSD, the flashbacks they get, just simple things like a car backfiring can send them off into absolute chaos. So, I can't even really imagine what it's like living with somebody like that. Can you kind of give us, an overview of what that's like?
Yes. And if I'm being 100% honest, I was very ignorant. Trey was in a plane crash in 2000. They rushed him to the hospital. He and his buddies were out of the hospital within about 2 hours. Young and dumb. I was like, great, they're fine. It was
right.
And we went on with life. And being in the military, they get right back into their planes and they go back off to the war. And that was in 2000. And it wasn't in 2000 until 2018 when there was a trigger. Unbeknownst to me, my husband had fought what you talked about, the flashbacks and dreams. But as veterans, as military men and women, they are taught to compartmentalize. And I get that because that saves their life. But when they come back and then they re-engage in the real world, it almost it's a detriment to them because they are so good at compartmentalizing and so good at pushing it down that you said another thing, the car's backfiring. If you know anybody that backs into their parking lot spaces, no matter where they are, it's probably somebody that's had some kind of trauma where they have to be able to get out quick, fight or flight. Mm-hmm. So you're further ahead than I was, and I was married to the man. And what triggered it, and you never know what's going to trigger somebody's PTSD. But what triggered it for us was our middle son came out that he was gay. And my husband's brother was gay and had killed himself due to some generational trauma. Mm. Again, stuff I never knew about. So here I had married this man. And we loved John Paul. I loved him through it. No, but he feared immediately, oh my gosh, is my son going to go into the path of my brother? And then all of a sudden, the plane crash came back so fast. It was like you saw the train just flying off the tracks and going off the cliff.
Yeah.
And when that happens, it's really hard to be the person supporting the person going through it, especially when you're having to talk to them about, are you drinking too much? Let's talk about that. Addiction. And then in this society, you kind of feel bad because you're looking and he's not drinking any more than your neighbors, right? Everybody's popping open the beer at 5 o'clock and pouring the scotch. And it's normalized. And you're like, but this isn't good. And then the next thing you know, it spirals down to where you have to have an intervention because you're told your husband is suicidal by his counselor. Like counselors aren't allowed to reach out unless they think that. And he called me. Right. I still didn't believe it. I'm not going to lie to you. And I called a friend and said, I need help. I got to get the guns out of the house. She said, we can't do this alone. we'll call Chico. I said, well, where's Chico? Chico owned a facility 45 minutes down the road. I said, I don't have 45 minutes. She's telling me just call him and see what to do. I don't know. I don't know who you believe in. I don't know if you believe in God. I don't know if you believe in Bob. I don't even know a higher power, universe. It doesn't matter. Chico was literally 2 blocks from my house. And when he showed up to help me with the guns, he said, why is his Navy uniform on the floor? I said, well, he handed it to me today and said to get it dry cleaned. And he said, he wants to be buried in it. He had been in the Navy for over 13 years.
Yep.
I never put 2 and 2 together. Sometimes we're so in it, we can't see the forest through the trees. But what we're doing is enabling and loving,
Yeah. That's also makes me think of it could be a sign that not only does he want to be buried in it, but maybe that was what he wanted to kill himself into.
For sure.
I've seen 100%. That, where they dress up in their full uniform and everything and go out with a bang.
And today that uniform has been hidden. I mean, I have it hidden and I will not. I'm traumatized. So.
Well, sure. Absolutely. To just kind of be going along, living and doing life. And then all of a sudden, bam, you're in the middle of somebody else's chaos. And just having absolutely no idea. And it's supposed to be that one person that inside and out.
And you don't.
And you don't. So yeah, there's trauma there for sure. And, one of the things that I'm learning is that, with our soldiers and our veterans, the aftercare when they get out is like non-existent. And what there is just absolutely sucks. So here they've spent, however many years, like you said, compartmentalizing everything, living on a very rigid schedule, et cetera, et cetera. And they get out of it. And all of a sudden it's just like, okay, here's your discharge and hasta la vista, see ya.
Yeah.
And then they're just kind of like, well, now what?
Yeah. And if you think about it, they're told what to wear every day. They're told where they're going to go and what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. They don't have to make any decisions.
Exactly.
So they get out and, I don't want to say they're floundering, but you've been in a system that's such a bubble. It is a beautiful life. Everybody's advancing at the same level. It's not dog eat dog. It's not, they mean it when they say no soldier left behind, no brother left behind, no sister left behind. But then you get out, you're like,
and they're left behind.
Yeah,
once they're no longer in the service, they're left behind.
And the catch-22 is the process. Exactly. And the caretakers are angry. The caretakers are like, I hate the military, and they've been ingrained to love it. So then it's to this day in our house, it's a constant battle because we have all boys.
Oh, no.
They want to go into the military. He wants them to. I'm like, oh, hell no. Look what happened to us.
Well, I wouldn't be against it personally, me personally. And I don't know, I can say that today because I've never had to be in this situation, maybe being in your shoes, I would probably be like you too, but you are now more open and aware and knowledgeable as to what to look for. So if your boys go in the service, you can know what to watch for, educate when they get married, educate their spouses and whatnot and their partners, watch for this kind of stuff. Right. With them being in the military. So you do now have that advantage for your kids, but, at what price did you have to pay for that?
I will tell you, Tracy, that 2018 to 2021 was probably the darkest time of my life, and but also the best time. I became a whole another person. I realized you don't know how strong you are until you have to be. And I really realized I found some gifts in me that I didn't realize were there, is that I'm a very loyal person, because there was a couple of times when I found out that there had been some childhood trauma, I was angry. I was like, I didn't sign up for this. And I've had to learn a lot about forgiveness, but forgiveness does not mean forgetting.
Sure.
Forgiveness is love, but I had to learn to forgive because I, as you can tell, since I still hold resentment towards the military, hold on. And resentment's like, it's poison. It'll kill you.
It is.
So while the last 2018 to August of 2021 was a nightmare, it's probably the reason I am who I am today, and I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't have never met you. I wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't be teaching dance. I would still be caught up with the world and trying to be like the Joneses.
Oh, no, not keeping up with the Joneses.
For sure.
Oh,
I'm free now. I'm
good.
free because of my husband's trauma, which is...
It's one of those kind of bittersweet things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, trauma definitely changes us. And a lot of times it changes us for the better.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it makes us people that we never, I would have never been here doing a podcast about trauma and stuff had I not gone through my past, you know?
Right.
I was going to be an accountant.
I was going to say, and you probably had some angels that helped you through it, is what I call them. I have some random people that just showed up out of nowhere, an attorney, a guy that helps the veterans, Clark out in Texas. I don't even know his last name, but if it wasn't for them, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now, because the mental health system is a joke. You wonder why we have homeless people. You wonder why we have homeless veterans, because if you can't afford to get the help, you're screwed, because they're going to over medicate you, throw you out. You're going to be dumbed down. You're going to turn back to the substances, and it's a cycle. And you're lucky if you get in prison. If you can't afford it, you're lucky, because at least there you can have a bed and a meal. Yeah,
that comes with its own traumas.
Exactly. It's so
challenges
sad
too.
It's terrible.
It is terrible. And, you know, especially to see our government and our country turn its back on those who have sworn to defend it and who, you know, go out there and they put their lives on the line and they fight for us. And then we just kind of, well, thanks for your service and, you know, have a nice day. And that's it, you know. It's really sad. And it is really
bigger
sad.
than that. It's bigger than that, because then they have children.
Yeah.
And then their children get the generational trauma.
Yep.
Or they don't even have to go into the service. So it just keeps compounding and compounding and compounding. Right. And now throw in a pandemic and it's.
And you know, and while you're in the military, heaven forbid you have any mental health issues. You're not allowed.
No.
You know, you're not allowed. You have to keep that quiet. You know, God, you have to go off base if you need antidepressants, you know, things like that. And that's just not right. You know, yes, there are soldiers, there are you know, our military, but they're still people. Right.
They're human.
They are. And, you know, I think that they're treated almost subpar at times.
Well, it's like anybody who's been through a trauma. You've been through your trauma. On the outside, you look 100% okay. But we don't really know what's going on in the inside, right? And God forbid you share it openly.
Don't tell anybody.
Because then you're going to be put over here with the dregs of society, right? Like, it's not even your fault.
Yeah.
So I love what you're doing because of that.
Thank you. Yes. And that's one of the reasons why I do what I do is, you know, because somebody has to be the voice for these people. And there's so many people out there who can't speak for themselves, won't speak for themselves, or afraid to speak for themselves. We have to speak up for them. And so that's why, you know, you and I do what we do. And, you know, one of the things you mentioned about the cost of healthcare and stuff. And if you don't have the money to get therapy or treatment, you're screwed. And that's one of the reasons why I started my nonprofit, the Global Association for Trauma Recovery, And, one of the things that we're working on launching for this year is our Thrive program, which is going to be a funding program to help people who can't pay for therapy to get the therapy that they need.
I love that.
Because, our whole premise and my whole belief system is every survivor has the right to thrive. And the way our system is set up right now, we're set up for them to flounder, really, regardless of the traumas and stuff.
Exactly. I mean, to put it in perspective, because I'm an open book. September 2018 to August of this year, he didn't work. And do you know how much how much it cost? Almost $200,000. Like, if you haven't been blessed like we were and have the family support like we did, that's why we need your organization. Because I'm going to get in trouble. The other thing is there's a lot of organizations out there that say they're there to help you. I'm just going to call BS on them because they sure were to help me. So there's good ones and there's those that are, money makers.
They're in it for the money, even though they're nonprofit. They're still in it for the money. But so what are some of the things that really helped you to, get through this, to navigate the mental healthcare system, to learn how to become an advocate for your husband and for your family?
So my first thing is, if you have a loved one who is in the hospital, especially now with COVID, I have a little secret that I've been helping people that I help with. Go online and get certified to be a pastor, even if you don't believe in God. It's called like One Life Church or something. It costs $50 and takes 10 minutes because they cannot prevent you from being in the hospital with your loved one. Number one, if you're considered clergy, they cannot prevent you. All you got to do is show that certificate, because your loved one needs an advocate if they are in there for mental health, because they will not get treated with the respect that they should be treated with. Yep. I mean, Trey was not a harm to anybody but himself, and he was shackled to a bed with guards. It was ridiculous. And they wouldn't even let me have a chair there because they thought he was going to harm me. I'm like, he's not going to harm me. So make sure you're in that hospital in today's world. Number two, don't be afraid to fight. Don't be afraid to say this is not right. And don't be afraid to keep asking questions. But on the flip side of that, you need rest. You need to step back. So figure out your boundaries for you. And I would come home and turn off the phone, make sure the 3 boys were okay, make sure we were taking care of my dad at the same time with dementia, make sure he was okay. And I would go to sleep, because if you go down, the whole ship goes down. So make sure you're eating. I hate to say it, but eating as healthy as you can, because you're exhausted. Yeah. You just want the drive-through. Drink the water. I know this all sounds, but it saved my life. And then the third thing is, besides fighting for him, I will say I the first year of it, I spent 365 days in a program called Al-Anon. Al-Anon is for family members with alcoholics. There's somebody in your world with alcoholism. I'm just going to tell you right here, right now. Go to the damn meeting. It's free. Oh, damn, sorry. It's free.
You're fine.
And it helps with mental health. It helps with PTSD. It helps with trauma. It doesn't help with just alcoholism. I went 365 days and I learned that the respect of, just because I want to believe in God doesn't mean the next person. Everybody gets their own higher power, and you respect them where they're at, because by God, they got their loved one to, if it's a freaking doorknob, they got to surrender. And that's the only way they're going to survive. So Al-Anon's a huge thing. Somebody in your life, alcoholic, just go in and say, it's my dear friend, because I guarantee you somebody's there, right? and they'll accept you and welcome you in, and it'll save your life. Al-Anon saved my life. So people only associate that with alcoholics. I disagree.
Well, and I think that's just because that's what Al-Anon was originally created for, was for family members of alcoholics. But You're right. It's a safe place where you can go and you can talk.
And it's free, because you're going to be spending so much money over here on your loved one. It's free. So,
yeah. And if Al-Anon's not the right thing for you, there are so many other groups and stuff out there. There are tons of Facebook groups that are also free, where you can go and, get the support you need. The Global Association for Trauma Recovery, we are starting our own, like membership group, whatever you want to call it. It's free. And we're going to have different categories and stuff in there. So, you can go to gaftr.org/membership and log in, sign up for an account there. And, it's still relatively new, but that's something that we're really working on getting out there for 2022, because it really, really helps to connect with other people who have gone through similar to what you've gone through. Those who haven't don't get it. I can understand to a point of, some of what you've gone through, but that's it. And that is a very shallow point, because I've never been through it. And that's just like, with me being a widow, if you haven't experienced the loss of a spouse, you don't understand, you don't get it, and so, definitely reach out and find whatever kind of support group works best for you. For sure.
I agree. And don't feel bad, because the truth is, the first couple of times, I was like, screw this. I'm out. All these people want me to feel sorry for them. I'm just going to go give them a gun and let them blow their own heads off. You'll find a group. You will find one. You just got to keep.
Yep. You got to find the one that resonates
searching.
With you. Absolutely.
But I like how yours is going to have different categories, because Al-Anon, if you feel uncomfortable because yours isn't addiction, but you're taking care of somebody with trauma, yours has, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Caretaker, whatever. I don't know.
Yep. I agree. And that's kind of why we're breaking it down, and we have it, off Facebook. So it's safe, it's secure. Facebook has no right over to your, what you post out there and stuff. And so,
I like that.
And listeners, I'll put the link to that in the show notes as well. Just so you have it. Tell us a little bit about your book, The Good Life Journal. What's that all about?
Oh, thanks for bringing that up. When Trey got sick, I don't know if you went through this, Tracy, when your husband died, and I know you have other trauma, but I lost faith. I lost faith in God. I kind of the pity party of, we're good people. We're good people of society. We're kind. We're loving. We love one another. All of it. What the hell, dude? And because we had been through some, other traumas. First his brother's suicide, then his grandma and grandpa's suicide, and there was a lot. And I was like, really? Now I got to go through it with my own husband? So I just started searching. And again, for me, I went back to God, but I started a 4-step process everything where I would get up and spend some time with God, just drinking a cup of coffee. So if anybody was ever to see my Instagram stories, every morning there's a cup of coffee. And it's like my subliminal message to people: go spend time with your higher maker. Go spend time with whoever that is. Right.
Right.
And then I take time and affirm myself. Do I do this every day now? No. But for those years, you better believe I was. But I give myself an I am statement. I take it a little bit deeper, go into how it will benefit me, how it will serve me. Then my mother, who passed away in 2016, used to be a humongous prayer warrior. And she used to have this notepad system for people. If she prayed for you and you died, you moved over in purgatory. And then after 30 days in purgatory, she moved you to the white pad because you were in heaven, and she praised that. But if you're on a pad, it was prayers. So I have a circle where you pray for others and then a prayer to the Holy Spirit. And I worked with the coach thinking I was going back into corporate America. And she was like, I think you can market this and have a coaching business. I wrote a journal and now it's a 4-step process to the good life, which is God, ourselves, others, and divine moment. GOOD.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I didn't go through it so much because I'm not religious. But
right.
So, you know, I didn't have that whole loss of faith aspect of it. I knew that, you know, the universe has its, you know, methods and meanings and, you know, reasoning for behind what happens. Right. But, you know, I still had my own, but you know, why did this happen? Why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to us? Mm-hmm. You know, he was only 45, right. You know, 46, you know, he was young, too young for a heart attack. But, yeah, so, you know, I did have my own struggles with, you know, why, for sure.
Right. And why him?
And why him? Yeah. Why him? Why us? Why now? Yeah. Why that day?
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Yeah. So I had all my own, you know, and then of course there was the survivor's guilt and did I start CPR soon enough? Should I, you know, why didn't I just make him go to the hospital instead of, you know, wait? And, you know, so I had all my own crap I had to deal with, for sure.
Yeah. But we always look back and say, what did I miss?
Mm-hmm. What if that what if game is going to get you into so much trouble.
Oh yeah, exactly. Just,
yeah.
Should have and what if should be gone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, Amy, thank you so much for coming on and talking with me, being, you know, so vulnerable, open and honest about this. And this has been great. I really appreciate it.
I really appreciate it. I appreciate you and I appreciate everything you're doing. And I'm going to make sure that GAFT.org is over on my Instagram. That's
awesome.
Right.
GAFTR. Gafter.
Oh, GAFTR.
Yeah. I just call it Gafter. But yeah, gafter.org.
Got it.
So yeah, so thank you so much. Listeners, you know the drill. I will have all of Amy's contact information in the show notes. Go to releasingtraumapodcast.com, pull up Amy's episode, all her contact information, link to her book, you know, everything there will be there for you. I will also put in the link to the Global Association for Trauma Recovery so that you have that information as well. So thank you as always for listening, and we will talk to you in the next show. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure you hit subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss a show. Be sure to check us out on our new socials on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.